There's a particular kind of emotional experience that doesn't get named very often in conversations about desire or relationships, and that's longing. Not grief, not depression, not heartbreak in the acute sense, but longing, that low, persistent ache for something just out of reach. A person who isn't available, the career you didn't take, or a version of yourself that you might have been. A house that you walk past and imagine living in, the meals you fantasize about but somehow never order, or the vacation that stays permanently on the list but never lived. Most of us are carrying some form of longing most of the time. And what I find most interesting about it, from a clinical perspective, and certainly looking at it through the lens of pleasure, is that people often aren't suffering from their longing. They're suffering sustaining it. Because at a neurochemical level, longing actually feels good. And that's worth sitting with. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Cyndi Darnell, a sex and relationship therapist who works with all kinds of people in all kinds of relationship configurations all over the world. On this channel, we have conversations that most people only have in their heads, but not out loud. We talk about desire, intimacy, connection, and what gets in the way. If that's what you're here for, you're in the right place. So let's get into it. Longing isn't just a feeling. It has a neurological signature, and once you understand that signature, the way it operates in your life becomes a lot clearer. When we anticipate something, a reunion, a message back, the possibility of a person, dopamine is released in the brain's reward circuitry. The critical word there is anticipate, not receive, not experience, but anticipate. Research has shown fairly consistently that dopamine peaks in expectation, not in fulfillment. So this means the longing itself can become more chemically compelling than whatever it is you're actually longing for. This is why people release more dopamine planning a holiday than they do on the actual holiday itself. Or why scrolling through real estate site for a house that you'll never buy feels strangely satisfying. Or why browsing clothes you'll never purchase, or mapping out a meal you'll never eat, or daydreaming about a job that would require you to give up everything else in your life. All of that produces a real neurological reward. The fantasy is doing something. It just isn't getting you anywhere. And when that longing attaches itself to people, particularly people who are emotionally or physically unavailable, that same loop runs. The charge lives in that unresolved space. You can want someone deeply from a distance and sustain that wanting over years and never have to risk the actual exposure of being known by them. The longing becomes the relationship in itself. It's worth pausing again on the range of things that longing can attach to, because it's so much broader than people realize. There's the obvious things, the unavailable people, the past relationships, the one that got away. But longing also extends well beyond our romantic life. We long for careers that we didn't pursue, often without fully reckoning with what those careers would have cost us. Or perhaps the artist who didn't make art, the person who didn't move overseas, the job that would have meant more money, but less time with people you love. Longing for those lives stays pristine precisely because it was never tested against reality. Or perhaps we've got longing for identities and histories, a cultural heritage you didn't grow up fully inside, or an ancestral home you've never seen, a language half lost across generations, or a version of yourself that existed before a significant turning point, before an illness, before a divorce, before a move, before some loss. We can spend years grieving a self or an experience that sometimes is more idealized in retrospect than perhaps it ever was, even at the time if we once had it. What many but not all of these have in common is that they remain unaffected by reality. And that's the thing about longing, the object of it. Whether a person, a place, or a life can only stay perfect if you never actually get close enough to find out what it's really like. In decision science, there's a concept called inaction inertia, where the longer you wait without acting, the harder the acting becomes. And choice overload theory describes how an excess of options doesn't create freedom. It creates paralysis, and dating apps are a near-perfect delivery mechanism for both. So when you believe that the ideal person is one more swipe away, you never quite have to risk the imperfect, real one in front of you. For people with anxious or avoidant attachment histories, longing can function as a highly refined protection strategy. Anxious attachment keeps the wanting alive and intense, often directed at people who can't or won't reciprocate consistently. Avoidant attachment can produce a different flavor of the same pattern. The person who always wants what they don't have, who finds that actually having something tends to reduce its appeal. Both styles can become structurally dependent on distance. And the result is that some people are not really looking for love. They're looking for the feeling of looking for love. And they will construct situations, intentionally or not, that preserve that feeling. Now, we're not doing this in a vacuum. Longing is really culturally engineered, and it has been for a very, very long time. A 2022 study from the University of Toronto's Department of Psychology, published in the Journal of Personal Relationships, which I will link below, analyzed the attachment themes in 823 Billboard #1 hits from 1946 to 2015. And what they found was the pop song lyrics have grown increasingly avoidant and less secure in their attachment content over those 7 decades. The study's lead author put it plainly. Popular music lyrics are running parallel to sociological trends of social disconnection. People valuing independence over reliance on others and feeling more isolated. The Weeknd's Heartless as one end of the spectrum, and Adele's Somebody Like You at the anxious end. Most of us know both of these by heart. Beyond music, longing is embedded in the architecture of almost every major cultural product marketed to us. The premise of romantic pursuit, obstacle, yearning, and eventual arrival is the backbone of film, television, advertising, and social media. The fantasy is always more available than the thing being sold. Disney taught a generation that love announces itself with drama. Reality TV built the entire formats around the dopamine of a near miss. And even real estate websites and reality shows understand this, that the browsing is the product. Longing as a cultural product is extremely profitable. Longing as a personal operating system is extremely costly. If this is landing for you and you want to go further, there are a few ways that we can work together. First of all, my book, Sex When You Don't Feel Like It, is a good place to start if you're a reader. If you're looking for something more personal, I offer coaching and counseling for individuals, couples, and polycules, folks all over the world. And if you want a structured path you can move through in your own time, my online courses are built exactly for that. Links to all of those are below. And while we're here taking a pause, a like and subscribe really helps this content get to more of the people who need it. Hit the notification bell to find out when I upload new videos. I have a lot of ideas coming for you this year, and I don't want you to miss any of them. One of the most disorienting experiences that I hear from clients, and one that generally doesn't get discussed openly, is the alarm that arises when you find yourself in a relationship that's actually working. Not the early stage anxiety of a new connection, which most people expect, but something more unsettling, that feeling that something must be wrong precisely because nothing seems to be wrong. The person is kind, they follow through, they're interested in you, they don't disappear, and instead of feeling safe, you feel suspicious or flat or vaguely suffocated. You start looking for the catch, manufacturing distance, or convincing yourself that you're not attracted to them, when what's actually happening is that your nervous system has never learned to read safety as safety. If your attachment history was shaped by inconsistency, emotional unavailability, criticism, or the sense that love was conditional on performance, then consistency can read as boring, availability can read as neediness, and kindness can actually trigger a kind of low-grade threat response. Your system has learnt to stay alert in love. The absence of that alertness doesn't feel like peace. It just feels like nothing is happening. Shame sits at the core of a lot of this, not always named as shame. Sometimes it arrives as, I'm not ready, or I don't feel a spark, or I just don't think I'm a relationship person, all of which may be true. But underneath many of those explanations is a deeper, quieter belief that being fully known by another person is the same as being found out. That the love will end when they see who you really truly are. And it feels safer, neurologically safer, to stay in longing where you are always wanted but never truly encountered. The attachment work that shifts this isn't cognitive. It isn't about thinking your way to deserving love. It's about accumulating experiences of being seen and not abandoned, slowly across different relationships in different forms. For example, a friend who knows the hard parts of you and doesn't leave. A pet whose response to you is uncomplicated. A community that holds you in your mess as well as your strength. These experiences, for some people, can be perfectly adequate substitutes for intimate partnerships. And for others, they may still feel they want to move toward more intimate partnerships. These are the conditions that make intimate partnerships possible. They build what researchers call earned security, an attachment orientation that changes not through insight alone, but through repeated relational experience. And the same principle applies to receiving love from a partner, not performing receptivity, actually tolerating the discomfort of being cared for, staying present when you'd normally deflect or shrink or make a joke. This is the work. It doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't feel like a breakthrough most of the time. But across months and years, the nervous system learns that something new is happening, that it can be known, it can be held, and that being loved does not require you to be perfect or invisible or perpetually useful. It requires you to be present. So if you've recognized something of yourself in any of this, if longing has been more of a home than an emotion, if you find yourself more alive in the chase than the arrival, or if a genuinely available relationship has ever felt strangely threatening, I want you to know that that is not a character flaw, but it is a pattern, and it has roots. And these patterns can change. And the goal isn't to stop feeling longing. Longing is part of desire, part of aliveness, part of what makes intimacy feel like it means something. The question is whether your longing is pointing you towards something real or holding you just far enough away so that you'll never have to find out. This stuff is not simple, and I don't think it should be, but I do think it's worth staying with. My book, Sex When You Don't Feel Like It, is linked below, along with my online courses and other ways to work with me. If you're ready for more personalized support, coaching and counseling with me is also an option. All the links are below. Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for staying with me. Like and subscribe as a reminder, and I'll see you next time.